Namaskar dosto. In today's video, we are going to analyze four companies. There are four stock reviews or earnings review that we are going to do in today's video, right? So these companies have come up with their results very recently, and the results are terrific for these companies. The objective of this video is to understand ये जो results आए हैं, how sustainable they are. So the profitability for these companies in the future would expand or would it contract? Because अगर profitability expand करती है तो obviously stock price भी ऊपर जाएगा इन companies का, right? So four companies. Two companies that we start with are from the real estate sector, and then there are two NBFCs that we will analyze, right? So watch the video till the end. You'll get a decent understanding of not only these two companies, but of these two sectors as well, right? So whenever I analyze results of real estate companies, there are four parameters that I look at. Plus, I look at the business model. So I'll start with the four parameters, and then I'll come to the business models of these two companies. So the two companies that we discuss, one is Oberoi Realty, and the other is Sobha Limited, right? तो सबसे पहले मैं ये देखना चाहता हूँ कि what is the inventory overhang, right? So the most important metric that I'm searching for in the transcript is the inventory overhang. But frankly speaking, none of the developers, none of the real estate companies mention details or mention quantitative numbers around inventory overhang. कोई ये नहीं बोलता है कि हमारी इतनी सारा inventory जो है इतने महीनों के लिए नहीं बिकी. Inventory overhang is nothing but you've made those flats, you've made those residential complexes, and let's say you've made one flat and it's been 2 years that the flat has not sold. तो inventory कितने वक्त तक developer के पास पड़ी है? That is the one metric which I try to figure out or understand. Nobody gives a very clear-cut answer, but you have to understand that from the tone of the management, or you have to get a very qualitative kind of interpretation कि बढ़ रहा है या कम हो रहा है. So for both these companies, the inventory overhang is coming down. तो inventory overhang का मतलब simple जैसे मैंने बताया कि you've made a flat, but the flat is not selling for like 1 year, 2 years, 2.5 years. So any property which is not selling for, or any company which has an inventory overhang of more than 18 to 24 months, वो थोड़ा एक red flag माना जाता है, right? So the inventory overhang for both these companies is coming up. क्योंकि अगर inventory आपकी जो current inventory ही नहीं बिक रही है, तो फिर why would you do new launches? What is the incentive for you to do new sales? Already जो माल है वो नहीं बिक रहा है, then why would you do all these new initiatives? So inventory overhang is a very important metric which you need to check when you analyze real estate results. दोनों companies के inventory overhang कम होते जा रही है. This is one thing. The second thing, which is predominantly a kind of a growth metric, which is booking rate कितना है, तो कितना pre-sales rate या फिर booking rate में growth कितना दिख रहा है. तो both these companies have shown very good kind of increase in booking rate. Especially शोभा का अगर आप देखोगे तो 70% से booking rate, मतलब कितने लोग नए आके ना प्रॉपर्टीज बुक करके जा रहे हैं, एक टोकन अमाउंट जो है वो दे के जा रहे हैं. व्हाट इज द बुकिंग रेट, व्हाट इज द इंक्रीज इन द बुकिंग रेट? तो even Oberoi Realty, they have kind of the guidance which they have given for booking rate is very very strong. तो दोनों companies के booking rates है या फिर pre-sales बोल सकते हैं इनको. Both these kind of booking rate for these two companies are very positive, right? So this is the second one. The third thing, तो इन्वेंट्री कम हो रही है, बढ़िया बात है कि आपने जो भी प्रॉपर्टीज बनाई है वो बिक रही है. आप जो नए प्रॉपर्टीज वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस में जो है वो भी बिक रहे हैं, बढ़िया बात है. तीसरी चीज है फिर आप लॉन्च करिए यार. आई मीन यू नीड टू कम अप विद न्यू लॉन्चेस. सो लॉन्च, the kind of information that these real estate companies give you on launches is nothing but the leading indicator of growth. तो मतलब अगर आप industrials को analyze कर रहे हो या फिर capital goods companies को analyze कर रहे हो, तो they'll tell you that we have these many order books और इतने करोड़ के order books हैं हमारे पास. This is the kind of capex that we are going to do. This is the kind of funding that we are going to raise for that capex. So for real estate company, the launches is the leading indicator of growth. That is what they are planning for the next 2 years, 5 years. So even on the launches side, both these companies look very positive, right? Fourth parameter is your revenue realization. तो ये सबसे important parameter, चारों parameters important है, but this is again a very important parameter because revenue realization ना क्या होता है, ये आपको बताता है कि project delivery जो है, because what happens in real estate is, let's say you go and buy a house of let's say 40 lakhs, तो उसमें आपको down payment 5 लाख करना पड़ेगा. उसके बाद ना milestone based payments शुरू हो जाते हैं कि ये 3 slabs are fitted, then you pay another 3 lakh, then another 3 slabs, then you pay another 8 lakhs, something of these lines. जब तक वो project या जब तक वो property deliver नहीं होती है, till then the revenue does not get realized. तो इसमें थोड़ा accounting में आगे पीछे होता है, but the revenue realization is a metric which give you insights about how efficiently the companies or the developers are delivering on their projects. कि यार कितने जल्दी, मतलब pre-sales to revenue is another metric which they never give you data for, but you have to try to gauge it from the transcript or the con call कि pre-sale to revenue मतलब pre-sale booking हुई है और revenue realize हुआ है, उस कितना कम है, मतलब उतना अच्छा प्रोजेक्ट डिलीवरीज मान सकते हैं आप कंपनीज के, राइट. सो ये चारों पैरामीटर्स पे both these companies have given extraordinary results. Rate sensitive sector है, banks are booming right now, and anything which comes to rate sensitivity or any sector which is associated with rate sensitiveness, whether it is auto, whether it is consumer durable, whether it is real estate, if banks are moving, these sectors are also going to move, right? So this is about the 4 parameters which you need to look at when you go through transcripts. Right now you come to the most important thing, which is the business model. तो आप शोभा का ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन देखोगे तो it is around 8%, 9%, single digit, higher single digit. But if you look at the operating profit margin of Oberoi Realty, it is more than 50%. Normally it is in the range of 45 to 50%, but this quarter almost 50% is what they gave. तो इतना stark difference क्या है? तो दोनों रियल एस्टेट कंपनी है, इतना स्टार्क डिफरेंस क्यों है दोनों कंपनी के ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन में? ऐसा शोभा रियल्टी क्या नहीं कर रही है जो ओबेरॉय रियल्टी या ओबेरॉय डेवलपर कर रहा है, राइट? सो देयर आर the fundamental difference is actually in the business model. There are 3 things which give Oberoi Realty a very high operating profit margin, which do not give Shobha the kind of operating profit margin. सबसे पहले जो है, Oberoi Realty owns the land banks. जो लैंड के ऊपर प्रॉपर्टी बनती है, चाहे फिर वो रेसिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी हो या कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टी हो, they own it, right? So they buy the land at a very cheap rate, and then maybe after 5 years, 10 years, when they see that the price is going to appreciate because there are certain developments that are happening around the land at which they have bought the land, the realizations or the price, the selling price for those properties, if they see there is a lot of appreciation, तब वो लोग जाके कंस्ट्रक्शन शुरू करते. तो दे ओन द लैंड बैंक्स. और मुंबई में ऑपरेटिव है, तो मुंबई में तो रियल एस्टेट प्राइसेस बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो मुंबई में लैंड बैंक ओन करना और उसको एक हाईली अप्रिशिएटेड प्राइस पे प्रॉपर्टी बना के बेचना, दैट इज़ वेयर अ मेजर ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन और मेजर ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट कम्स फॉर ओबेरॉय रियल्टी, राइट? जो शोभा डेवलपर्स है, शोभा लिमिटेड है, दे डू नॉट ओन द लैंड. तो उनका है कि यार किसी के पास लैंड बैंक है, हम हमारा सिविल कंस्ट्रक्शन करेंगे और वहाँ पे हम लोग अपना प्रॉफिट डिवाइड कर लेंगे, राइट? तो ओबेरॉय रियल्टी owns the land bank. It buys land at a depreciated value, a depreciated price, and after substantial appreciation, they'll build a property over there and they'll sell that property. They'll get value for that property as well as for the land banks, right? This is one thing. Second thing, ओबेरॉय रियल्टी जो कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम है, सिविल कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम है, ये आउटसोर्स कर देता है. ये L&T को दे देता है या फिर शोभा लिमिटेड जैसे कंपनी को आउटसोर्स कर देता है कि यार मुझे ये झंझट नहीं चाहिए मशीनरी खरीदने का, लोगों को मैनेज करने का. आई ओन द लैंड, आई नो हाउ टू डू द आर्किटेक्चर, द डिजाइन, आई नो व्हाट द एंड प्रोडक्ट शुड लुक लाइक. द कंस्ट्रक्शन इज समथिंग विच यू हैव टू डू बिकॉज आई डोंट वांट टू इन्वेस्ट इन द केपेक्स ऑफ मशीनरी एंड एवरीथिंग. आई डोंट वांट टू गो टू द हेडेक ऑफ डूइंग EPC वर्क, राइट? शोभा जो है डज दैट EPC वर्क. सिविल कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम शोभा करता है. So if you see, there is a lot of machinery which is there on Shobha's balance sheet. So again, operating profit margins यहाँ पे एक EPC काम में operating profit margins कम रहते हैं. That's why Shobha gets low operating profit margins. Third thing, if you are, so there are 2 models in real estate. एक तो build to sell होता है. So for example, if you are buying a flat, the developer builds that flat and he sells it to you. एक तो build to sell होता है. But if you're occupying an office, if you're a global capability center, or if you're an IT company or owner of an IT company, you want an office, let's say in a Pune or a Mumbai, you don't buy that property, you take it on lease. So there is build to sell and there is build to lease. Build to lease has operating profit margins of more than 90%, right? And 15% of the top line for Oberoi comes from build to lease. तो एक higher operating profit margin business में Oberoi है और उसको expand करना चाहता है. शोभा almost zero build to lease model पे काम करता है. It's predominantly a residential player. So that's why you see, so whichever real estate company that you analyze, you try to fit in this business model कि कौन सा business model कहाँ पे, कौन सी company का कहाँ पे business model है. You go through the complete business model and you apply these 4 parameters which I mentioned at the start of the video, right? So both these companies have given terrific guidance. दोनों companies का brokerages पे जो brokerages का जो reaction था दोनों companies पे काफ़ी positive था. It was more positive for Oberoi Realty as compared to Sobha. So both these companies have given not explicit guidance they have given, but they have given decent guidance. So these two are good companies. Rate sensitive sectors है realty, real estate. You need to kind of check these two companies, right? So this was about these two real estate companies. Now let's come to NBFCs, right? So NBFCs में क्या है? There are two NBFCs that we are going to analyze, and there are 4 parameters that we normally kind of refer to when we analyze NBFCs. So 2 companies that we analyze, one is Poonawala Fincorp and other is FedFina, Federal Financial Services, right? तो थोड़ा मैं समझा देता हूँ ये पैरामीटर्स को इस्तेमाल करके we'll go through the analysis of these two companies. So the first parameter is cost of funding. So as I've told multiple times, NBFCs or banks, lending is a commoditized business. If you want to lend to someone, you have to get money at a very cheaper rate so that you can lend at a cheaper rate, because if you do not lend at a cheaper rate, then your competitor will do that lending for you and take market share from you. So banking is a commoditized business. आपको सस्ते से सस्ते में माल उठाना है. So cost of funding is the most important thing out of the 4 parameters. Normally people say growth is the most important thing, but growth completely depends on the cost of funding. It's a commoditized business. Raw material cost सस्ते से सस्ते में आपको लेना है, right? तो cost of funding depends on multiple things. It depends on the fact, पहला चीज़ which it depends on कि आपका parentage कितना strong है. मतलब आप किसी को लोन दे रहे हो तो आप जानना चाहते हो कि who is backing you. So both these companies have good backers. The Poonawala Fincorp is backed by the Poonawala Group, and FedFina is backed by the Federal Bank. So parentage of these two companies is very, very strong. The second thing which matters is कि what is the kind of rating that you have in the system. So Poonawala Fincorp is a AAA rated kind of an NBFC. FedFina is a AA rated NBFC. So the AAA rated NBFC will get capital at a cheaper cost. So these two things are very, very important, right? Now, what is the borrowing mix? What is the funding mix? तो the cost of funding actually दोनों companies का पिछले 1 साल में बढ़ गया है, and the borrowing mix tells us कि or the funding mix tells us कि इनका cost of funding क्यों बढ़ा है, right? तो the hierarchy of borrowing mix थोड़ा मैं समझा देता हूँ. I've explained this in the previous videos, so I'll just explain it in very brief right now. सबसे ऊपर जो आता है, सबसे महंगा source of capital is equity dilution, right? सबसे महंगा source of capital is equity dilution. Poonawala Fincorp ने काफ़ी recently अपनी equity dilute की है. They raised QIP, they raised around 2,500 crore. FedFina ने कोई equity dilute नहीं की है, but the most expensive source of capital is equity dilution. This is one thing. फिर उसके नीचे जो आते हैं, that is your bank loans. तो public sector banks से आप term loans लेते हैं. That is what is middle में कहीं ना कहीं आता है borrowing mix में. Plus NCDs. So bond market में आप जाते हैं, you raise capital from the bond market. So this is somewhere in the middle, right? नीचे जो सबसे cheapest source of funding जो हमने L&T Finance के वीडियो में डिस्कस किया था, which L&T Finance kind of has access to the cheapest source of funding, which is like जो SIDBI NABARD के जो loans होते हैं या फिर priority sector lending जो PSU banks करते हैं या फिर banks करते हैं, वो एक that is the cheapest source of funding. So these two companies, they somewhere fit in the middle. FedFina भी middle में आता है. Poonawala Fincorp थोड़ा equity dilute किया तो थोड़ा ऊपर जाता है, but most of them kind of fit in the middle. The cost of funding has increased in the last 1 year, right? थोड़ा ECBs भी है. ECBs are external commercial borrowings. They have bought or they have borrowed loans in dollars. So the fact that rupee depreciated a lot in the last 1 year, so whoever has bought dollar denominated loans is going to face some heat on the cost of borrowing side. तो दोनों के cost of borrowing जो है थोड़ा increase हुआ है, marginal increase हुआ है, ज़्यादा कुछ increase नहीं है. But this is the hierarchy of cost of borrowing, right? Now the thing is कि this is the one parameter. The second parameter is growth. I mean, आपने पैसा तो raise कर लिया, आप lend किसको करोगे, right? तो इसमें भी एक हायरार्की है। तो मोस्ट एक्सपेंसिव और द हाईएस्ट यील्डिंग प्रोडक्ट्स आर योर क्रेडिट कार्ड्स। तो क्रेडिट कार्ड्स के ऊपर 30-35% यील्ड्स होते हैं, राइट। देन यू हैव माइक्रो फाइनेंस लोन्स, MFIs जो होते हैं उसमें करीबन 20-22 टाइप्स होते हैं। देन यू हैव पर्सनल लोन्स अराउंड 15-18%, या देन यू हैव MSME loans जो unsecured होते हैं 15%. Then you have all these secured loans like gold loan, vehicle loan, loan against property. ये करीबन 9-12% तक के yields होते हैं. And then उसके बाद सबसे नीचे जो होता है वो corporate loans होते हैं जो 6-7-8% kind of loans होते हैं, right? तो सबसे ऊपर जो होता है वो credit card होता है. उसके बाद क्या बताया मैंने, माइक्रो फाइनेंस होता है. Then you have personal loans. So Poonawala Fincorp is more on the retail side. तो ये personal loans का portfolio is what they're increasing. Educational loans, personal loans, consumer durable loans, right? These are not collateralized loans. These are unsecured loans. So if you see the loan book of Poonawala Fincorp, 47% of the loan book is unsecured. So Poonawala का जो risk rewards ज़्यादा दिख रहा है यहाँ पे, या फिर ज़्यादा aggressive लग रही है. It's lending on the retail side. So it's mostly your educational loans, personal loans, consumer durable loans, loan against property. तो थोड़ा नीचे अगर आप देखोगे secured part पे loans against property है. But FedFina अगर आप देखो, it's mostly secured loans or collateralized loans. तो loan against property which is around 9-12% yield, gold loans 9-12% yield. तो यहाँ पे FedFina बैठता है ना. Poonawala Fincorp on the lending side sits at the top, right? तो यहाँ पे जो cost of borrowing में both sit somewhere in the middle. Poonawala Fincorp sits at the top in the lending side and FedFina sits in the middle on the lending side. तो अगर आप देखोगे net interest margins जो है are higher for Poonawala Fincorp as compared to FedFina. FedFina थोड़ा secured quality point of view से अच्छा कंपनी है. ये थोड़ा aggressive, ambitious kind of company है which is expanding its loan book at a very, very fast pace, diluting equity, raising money and expanding its loan book, right? So I hope the hierarchy is very clear. So loan book growth में Poonawala Fincorp year on year grew by 60%, FedFina grew by around 35%, but both these companies saw an expansion in net interest margin. So it's very clear which company is more aggressive. किसका loan book ambitions जो है वो काफ़ी strong है, right? So this is about the growth part. The third thing is asset qualities. So both these companies have pristine asset quality. मतलब सारे parameters, सारे fronts पे अगर आप देखो asset quality top class है. Collection efficiency अच्छा है, credit cost कम हो रहा है, GNPA कम हो रहा है, NNPA कम हो रहा है, early stage loans जो है उसमें भी कोई stress नहीं दिख रहा है. तो I need not talk much about asset quality because both these companies have very strong asset quality. In the future, if you have to kind of understand which किसका asset quality deteriorate हो सकता है, it is Poonawala Fincorp because 47% of the loan book is unsecured, but FedFina 100% of the loan book is secured. So FedFina is a very staple classical compounder that you could look at, right? The last parameter is your OPEX cost. तो OPEX cost अगर आप private NBFCs या private banks के देखो तो सारे कम हो रहे हैं because of artificial intelligence and technology. They are using all these technology to kind of underwrite loans and reducing manpower, and that is something which is evident from all the con calls which have happened in the BFSI space. So this is about the OPEX cost which is coming. थोड़ा future के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं, what we can expect from these companies in the next 1 year. So Poonawala Fincorp, as I said, that year on year they grew at 62% for this quarter, but the guidance which the management has given up for 35-40% AUM growth. There is some deceleration that you see on the loan book growth because it's coming from a higher base, but the net interest margin, the NIMs are going to be strong and resilient. So this is what they have told. So again, if you're looking at a kind of an aggressive NBFC, then Poonawala Fincorp is one NBFC which you can look at. Brokerages reacted positively to the result, but the loan book growth is not going to be as strong as what it was in FY26 because it is coming from a higher base, right? But the NIM is something which could see expansion. So this is about Poonawala Fincorp. FedFina, which grew at around 35% AUM growth year on year, wants to grow at 20-25% AUM growth for FY27, and they grew at 35% last year. So thoda deceleration in the top line or the loan book growth is that you see. Again, they're very confident about the NIM resilience, but the net interest margin mein resilience काफी strong होगा. That is what they are very confident about, right? So thank you very much for your time. These are not stock recommendations. Please read more about these companies. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.